dearly under.
Hey, my name is Babe. Today I'm going to show you how to use the 3D world of Team Fortress 2 to create your own animated short film. We're going to use a tool that I work on called the Source Filmmaker. So let's begin. The first time you launch the SFM, you're going to see a setup window. This allows you to open up a recent session, create a new session from scratch, or browse for an existing session from your hard drive. Each movie created in the SFM is stored inside these session files. So for this tutorial, let's go ahead and create a new session. Go ahead and click on Create. You're going to get three windows: the animation set editor, the primary viewport, and the timeline. And in the middle of the primary viewport, you should see some bright red text that says No Map Loaded. Congratulations, you've done everything right. The reason you're seeing this is because the SFM needs to have a video game map loaded for you to be able to do anything. Go ahead and right-click in the viewport and choose Load Map. By default, you're going to get a big list of all the maps that are currently sunk to your machine. There's some filters up here. This one filters by mod. By default, it's on all mods. And down on the bottom here is a little text field. I know that the map that I want to use is called CP Mountain Lab, so if I just type MOUN, you can see that it shows me just the things that have MOUN in the name. So I can see that CP Mountain Lab is selected and click on Open. It'll take a second for that level to load, and while it's doing so, I'm going to show you a little bit about some of the UI that you might need to pay attention to. On the very bottom here, there's a game timer, which basically shows you the time that the game currently thinks that it is, so it counts up. There's also this memory footprint section, which tells you how much memory that we're using. So currently we're using about 1300 megs. And then there's the frames per second. So it looks like the map is loaded, so let's get started. There's also this memory footprint section, which attention to. On the very bottom here, there's a game timer, which basically shows you the time that the game currently thinks that it is, so it counts up. There's also this memory footprint section, which tells you how much memory that we're using. So currently we're using about 1300 megs. And then there's the frames per second. So it looks like the map is loaded, so let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create a camera. We have a shot selected, but there's no camera for this shot. Down here on the bottom right of the primary viewport, you'll see a button that says No Camera. On the right of that, there's a little pull down here, this little down arrow. So if we click on that, you can see a menu of camera operations. We're going to go down to Change Scene Camera, New Camera. Now you can see that the camera button says Camera 1. So if we click and drag in the viewport now, if I just drag to the right, you can sort of look around and see that we've got a map. If I hold down the W key, I can move forward, and if I hold down the S key, I can move backwards. Now bear in mind, this is while I'm dragging, so I actually have to hold the mouse down and then hold the W key down at the same time. If I hold down the A key, I can go to the left. If I hold down the D key, I can go to the right. If I hold down the Z key, I can go up. And if I hold down the X key, I can go down. There's also the R key for roll and mouse wheel to zoom in or zoom out. And you can do all these things at the same time so that you can sort of fly around just like you would inside the game. So let's go ahead and follow this dirt path down the road here. And so this is a community map that was made as part of an art pass contest. Um, I thought it was a really good little spot that we could use for getting started in this tutorial. We do a lot of camera puppeteering, so it's a good idea to really master how to use the camera so that you can get around very precisely.
You can also slow down the camera motion by holding down the control key or tapping the shift key to accelerate.
For those of you familiar with 3D modeling or animation systems,
Hold down the Alt button and left drag on the viewport and you can orbit the camera. Alt middle drag will pan and Alt right drag will dolly in and out.
this is basically because we know that for sometimes when you're animating or working on a pose or working on a piece, you want to be able to orbit around something like I am this light. And you can think of it as a turntable like a sculptor would use to basically spin something around, or a tripod where you're looking around, and it's basically just different ways of dealing with the mouse input. It's a good idea to take some time and really master this because the key to making good movies is often good camera work and being able to move around the scene in a very comfortable way. So we tried to combine the best of movie making and animation with what players are already familiar with in gameplay, and we thought this worked pretty well. So I think what I'm going to use is this little section here where this orange truck is, and I want the scout to come and run around this little area here. So we're going to do that in a later tutorial, but for right now, I want to show you how to set up a camera and then be able to still work with the scene without messing up that camera. So this is where camera 1 is placed, sort of aiming at this truck. But let's say we wanted to go and look at the truck's tire without messing up the camera.
So to do that, we're going to use the work camera. Now before we switch to the work camera, we need to copy the current view into it. To do this, hold down Control and click on the camera button. Notice that the text switches to say work camera.
By doing that, you've copied this view to the work camera. So now the work camera is able to come over here and look at the truck's tire, but when I click the camera button toggle, it goes back to the scene camera. So I can toggle back and forth between the two and not have to worry about messing up my scene camera.
So left click toggles between the work camera and the active camera, and control left click will copy the active camera to the work camera.
So that's the basics of working with a camera. Let's talk a little bit about working with time. Down here in the timeline, there's two ways of scrubbing time. You can grab the top of this blue thing, which is called the playhead, and just drag it left and right, and that scrubs time. You can also grab the film strip and throw it underneath the playhead. And you can also hit the spacebar to play or click on the play button up here on the time transport controls. Mouse wheel will zoom out or zoom in. It always zooms around the playhead, so wherever the playhead is, that's where it's going to zoom to.
Because the playhead gets used for a lot of different operations, we tend to use Control Spacebar to review our work. This will play the existing shot once, and then will return the playhead back to its current frame. This will come in handy later.
Up arrow goes to the beginning of a shot, and down arrow goes to the end of the shot. So
if you have a lot of shots, this is how you navigate the sequence.
And then see down here on the bottom where the playhead is square, if you click and drag that, it pans the whole view. It doesn't actually change time, it just changes the panning, and sometimes that's handy for being able to see areas outside the end of the view. You can also click and drag in the ruler here to make the time jump to that location. And there's playback, loop, and bounce here for playback controls. So that's how to sort of control time. This is how to control the view. So go ahead and play around with it, get comfortable, and in the next tutorial we'll talk about how to actually put some things into the shot.
And don't forget, hit Control S to save your work.
long day? Let's
We've learned how to work with the camera and work with time. Let's talk a little bit about working back and forth between the movie world and the game world. So there's a hotkey, F11, which will switch you back and forth between game and movie world. So basically, hit the F11 key to go into the game, and then when you're in the game, hit the F11 key to go back into the movie world. In the movie world, you can move the mouse around, you can select shots, you can throw time, you can scrub time, you can use the file menu. It works just like a normal tool. When you hit F11, however, the cursor is stuck to the middle of the screen, and you can shoot at it with left click and do all the things that you normally do inside of TF. So since we're using our players as actors, we have to go and get into places before we can actually start recording. So I'm going to go ahead and run the scout all the way across the map. And I thought that this little area here by the truck would be a good little spot for us to work with. And I thought that maybe we could record the scout running down this little dirt path. So go ahead and hit F11. You'll notice that the scout has disappeared. Even though in the game world we were clearly standing right there, he's gone. That's because for something to show up inside of a shot, it has to be recorded, just like a video camera has to capture somebody to put it onto tape. And so to do that, we're going to go ahead and click the record button and go ahead and click on record. You'll hear 3 beeps. And at the end of the 4th beep, you can go ahead and start running. That means that the tape is rolling. And so let's go ahead and run up to here and then hit escape when you're done. So you can see here that we're inside the tool mode, and when you hit the space bar, you'll see everything that we just did got recorded into the shot. When we get to the far end over here, we're going to go ahead and stop time with the spacebar again, and go down here and click on your shot, and hit the O key to set the out point for that shot. Notice that the sequence has this long strip of black here. You can go and click and drag it, or you can hit Alt-O, which will set the sequence to be the same as the current playhead. Go ahead and zoom in a little bit, so you can sort of frame it there. Hit the up arrow to go to the beginning of the shot, and hit F11. Now note that we're all the way on the other side of the map, because that's where we were at the end of the last take, so we need to go back and get in places. When we get back to the starting point, you'll see the other scout from our previous take is standing there waiting for us. We can't actually interact with him, kill him, or shoot him because he's actually not there in the game world. He's only a movie puppet. He's being driven by animation channels, controlled by the timeline instead of being controlled by game logic. To see an example of this, hit F11 and go ahead and hit play, and quickly hit F11 again. You can see that the scout is actually running away, and we're still able to just ignore him, and he's going to go and do what the movie clock tells him to do. So let's go ahead and chase him around. Hit F11, click on the record button here, click record, and listen for the beeps. And there we go. So I'm basically recording myself twice. Get to the end of the shot, and you'll hear some beeps again. This is telling you that the shot is ending, and it's going to return you to the movie mode. This is because it only records the duration of the selected shot when you hit record. If you make a mistake, just right-click on the shot and go to Cleanup, Manage Takes. You'll see that there's the 2 takes that we just recorded. Select the second one and click on Delete. I'm going to go ahead and undo that since I want to keep that take. So hit Control Z and the take will come back. So go ahead and hit play, and you can see here's our little sequence. So this scene might be a little bit more exciting if we recorded a soldier shooting some rockets. So let's run over here where the scouts were when they ran past this corner. And if we hit 5 on the number pad, it'll switch back and forth to the first person view. Hit period and select the red team and select the soldier. You'll see that the scout died. And when the soldier respawns, he's probably going to respawn inside the red spawn room. So we're going to go ahead and need to get him into places. So instead of running all the way across the map, I'm going to show you a trick where we're going to go ahead and teleport him using the scene camera. So go ahead and hit F11, right click in the primary viewport and go down to Game, Teleport Player to Camera. You can see the player has teleported right here behind the scout. using some rockets, so let's run over here where the scouts were when they ran past this corner. And if we hit 5 on the number pad, it'll switch back and forth to the first person view. Rockets, so let's run over here where the scouts were when they ran past this corner. And if we hit 5 on the number pad, it'll switch back and forth to the first person view. Hit period and select the red team and select the soldier. You'll see that the scout died. And when the soldier respawns, he's probably going to respawn in
inside the red spawn room, so we're going to go ahead and need to get him into places. So instead of running all the way across the map, I'm going to show you a trick where we're going to go ahead and teleport him using the scene camera. So go ahead and hit F11, right click in the primary viewport, and go down to Game, Teleport Player to Camera. You can see the player has teleported right here behind the scout, so we're already in position and everything's ready to roll. So go ahead and get into places, hit F11, click the record button, listen for the beeps, start shooting some rockets. And there we go. By the way, when you teleport yourself, you can sometimes get accidentally stuck inside walls with the floor. Just go ahead and tap the N key for no clip, and then you can fly through walls, and then hit N when you're in midair, and you'll drop back down onto the world. So you'll notice that the active camera got set to be unnamed camera 3, which is the soldier camera. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down the menu and change scene camera to be unnamed camera 2, which is the scout. Go ahead and hit play. Looks like we've got a pretty exciting action shot. So let's go ahead and cut it up into a sequence. And don't forget, hit Control S to save your work.
This filter tells you if you have yellow teeth. Colgate Optic White Purple Reveal instantly corrects the yellow tones for whiter teeth.
We've made a good little action shot. Let's go ahead and talk about editing and how to cut up this shot into a sequence. For the most part in the SFM, you're going to want to go ahead and make a master shot that has all the pieces that you need in it before you start cutting it up. This is because it'll save you some time organization-wise to make sure that all the action is there every time you blade or copy the shot. So go ahead and hit the space bar, and somewhere around here where the rocket is
us. Let's go ahead and select the shot in the middle here and hit B for blade. And this is the most common way to create a new shot. You'll notice it took the entire shot that we had covering the whole sequence and cut it into 2 shots. So the first shot that we had from before is still here, but now it's half as long. And now we have a new shot that starts at that same level. Notice it took the entire... And somewhere around here where the rocket is passing us, let's go ahead and select the shot in the middle here and hit B for blade. And this is the most common way to create a new shot. You'll notice it took the entire shot that we had covering the whole sequence and cut it into 2 shots. So the first shot that we had from before is still here, but now it's half as long. And now we have a new shot that starts at that same location.
Go ahead and select shot 2 and drag the playhead so it's inside the selected shot. Note that if you click and drag in the viewport right now, it won't do anything because the camera is being controlled by animation curves. We'll talk more about this later. For now, let's go ahead and create a new camera and place it somewhere else in the world. Each time you blade, you're making a copy of the shot, so the camera 1 that we made right before we recorded the scout running is still there. Let's go ahead and set that to be the active camera and move it somewhere else in the world. Click down on the camera button and choose camera 1. Now we can just click and drag in the viewport to move the camera again, and maybe fly over here by this soldier so that we can do an over-the-shoulder shot. Maybe mouse wheel in and sort of watch the scouts come through here. So now if we sort of scrub back a little bit and play, you can see that we've got a nice little edit here. And so we can do the same thing again. As the scouts leave the shots here, we can go ahead and hit blade again and go into this shot. Now since the active camera is camera 1, we can still move the camera around. Just remember it like this. When you're in the clip editor, you can only use the camera manipulator on static cameras. If you want to modify a moving camera, I'll show you how to do that later in the motion editing tutorial. So let's go ahead and maybe have this shot end when the scouts are coming up and running near us. Now you'll notice at the end of the shot here, the sequence runs out. This is because the blue film strip actually defines the active playback range. We cut it off earlier in the previous tutorial, so I'm going to go ahead and extend the sequence and extend the shot. As I move the mouse over the edit point, you'll note that the cursor changes. And you can click on the end of the shot and just drag it out to extend it. So let's go ahead and move the camera so that the scout kind of runs right over us or something. That'll look pretty good.
see what that looks like. So we don't really want all these black frames. So let's go ahead and move the sequence end to the end of the shot. You can either grab the end of it or hit Alt-O. Again, up and down arrows to move between the shots. And there's our little sequence. So let's talk a little bit about working with edits. If you notice, as I move my mouse over the shot, you can see that the cursor changes from editing the end point of this shot to editing a rolling edit between the two shots to editing the end point of the following shot. And it's good to think about it in terms of each clip has its own sense of time. So if you make the shot longer, you can actually repeat the same moment over and over again. You can actually see this if you put the camera into the work camera and then play time. As you cross the edit points, time will actually skip. You can also adjust the time window that the shot is looking at by sliding the media under the shot. To do this, hold down Control and Shift, note that the cursor changes, and as I click and drag on the shot, you can see that there's this yellow and black ticker tape that shows up. And as I slide it, you can see that I'm adjusting when the actions happen. So if I were to go through and go to the beginning of the shot here, you can see that there's this rocket. And if I want this shot to start right when the rocket is first fired, I can drag to the right. And now when I hit play, you'll see if I go back, if we watch that edit, you'll see that a rocket gets fired right as we cut. If you just left drag on the shot, you can drag the shot to the beginning to reorder it or drag it to the end to reorder it. You can Control C and Control V to copy and paste a couple shots. You can select those new shots and delete them. If you'd like to move the shot earlier in time and have it maintain its duration, you can hold down Alt and Shift and slide it earlier, which will adjust the edit points on the preceding shot and the shot following. It's also useful when you're sketching in a sequence to expand or contract time, basically make slow motion or high speed shots. So let's go ahead and blade a new shot and do that. Let's move the camera in this shot so we can tell where it begins and ends. Just hold down Control, Alt, and Shift and drag on one of the edit points. Notice that the yellow and black media turns to green and black, and the text on the bottom of the shot actually changes to show you that this time scale is no longer 1.0. 1.0 is normal speed. If you need to reset a shot, you can right-click on it and get a context menu for that shot. Go up to Edit Clip and you can set the clip's name, the color, the overlay text, and one of the items is Set Time Scale. Just set it to 1.0 and tell it whether you'd like it to scale around the start, the middle, or the end of the shot because it needs to change the length of the shot, and hit OK. As soon as you do, you'll see that the time scale goes back to 1 and it's a normal speed shot. If I wanted to delete this shot right now, when I hit delete, notice that it automatically moves the shot afterwards towards the left. Basically, it stops me from being able to create a gap. And now all the gap frames are at the end of the sequence. That's because the SFM is automatically collapsing time towards the start of the sequence. We added this because we were constantly getting black frames between the shots and we just decided that auto collapse was better. So at this point, I recommend going ahead and recutting your shot up into a couple different kinds of sequences so you can get used to working with the camera and the edits at the same time to really embellish the moment or sort of bring out what you like about your scene. And when you're ready to move on, we'll talk about working with sound and track groups. And don't forget, hit Control S to save your work.